And another thing that Trump might need containment for is his recently announced January 6th commemorative press conference that he's going to be holding down in South Florida. This week, Trump did in fact announce that he is going to hold this big press conference, give a big old speech on the anniversary of the January 6th Capitol riot. This is going to be held at Mar-a-Lago. All of the major media outlets will most likely be there, which I happen to think is a big mistake. I think the best way to handle this upcoming speech is to totally ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. Don't give him the airtime. Absolutely do not make him feel important. That is the best thing the media outlets could do. And the reason they should do this is because we already know what kind of drivel he's going to be spewing at us during this little press conference or whatever it is you want to call it. And we know that because he basically gave us his talking points in his announcement. Here it is. Why isn't the Unselect Committee of highly partisan political hacks investigating the cause of the January 6th protest, which was the rigged presidential election of 2020? I will be having a news conference on January 6th at Mar-a-Lago to discuss all of these points and more. Until then, remember, the insurrection took place on November 3rd. It was the completely unarmed protest of the rigged election that took place on January 6th. All right. So we're going to hear some more election lies. Maybe he's got some new ones to throw out there. I don't know. You know, it'd be great to have a remix of the greatest hits instead of him just going out there and playing the same old songs that we all know so well. But the downplaying of the events that took place on January 6th, that's the real problem. And of course, he's doing that, I believe, because he's gearing up for a presidential run and he wants these people back in his corner. And he may have already lost some of them because we have had plenty of reports over the past year. They're mad they didn't get presidential pardons. They're mad he's not helping pay their legal bills. They're mad that he hasn't stuck up for them more over this past year. So this might be his way of trying to atone for that. Although with regards to presidential pardons, you really missed your opportunity on that one, buddy. So I don't know how many of these people are willing to come back to you. I know most of them likely will, but some of them clearly won't. But the danger lies in what he's going to say. Because he's going to, as he tells us here, try to claim that these people were just peaceful protesters. They weren't armed. They didn't deserve any of this. Of course, you can bet we're going to hear stuff about Ashley Babbitt and how she was murdered by police officers and how these bloodthirsty cops just shot her in cold blood. And for the record, I do not think that Ashley Babbitt should have been killed. Absolutely not. Yeah, it doesn't matter who the cops are killing. I'm against it. So I do think that Ashley Babbitt should still be alive today. So too, for the record, should the police officers that were there. Because that's the part these conservatives always like to gloss over. They like to talk about Ashley Babbitt, but we got multiple cops. Where's their concern for them? Where's the Blue Lives Matter crowd on that issue, right? Nowhere to be found. Radio silence from those individuals. And one of the reasons I also believe that Donald Trump is doing this is because he sees the walls closing in over here with that select committee investigation, or as he hilariously called it, the unselect committee. Who? Burn. No, that's childish. I could take that to my 7-year-old, and I promise you he could come back in 5 minutes with 10 better insults for the committee if he wanted to go that route. But the committee's getting closer. The committee is getting closer to Donald Trump. The sentences that we're starting to see handed down for these Capitol rioters are getting longer. They're getting more intense. The judges this past summer were telling prosecutors, you're being too lenient on these individuals. You're letting them off for lesser charges. We can get them on more, and we should to prove a point. But most importantly, Trump knows that that committee is getting closer to him personally. So he feels the best path forward for him is to go out there with this press conference that, again, the media should ignore, but they won't. He's going to go out there. He's going to lie about what happened. He's going to downplay it. He's going to attempt to rewrite history a year after we all watched it unfold on our TVs. But he's not doing it to protect the rioters. He's not doing it because he feels any kind of sympathy towards these individuals. He's doing it to make it seem like a lesser offense that his office, at least, was attempting to overturn the results of the 2020 election. And of course, that's why we're going to get mostly election lies out of him that day. You know, he has kind of been amped up about all of that recently, and it is because his administration is being exposed. We're finding out things because of the select committee that we likely would have not otherwise known. We would not have known about the text messages with Mark Meadows. We would not have known about the Fox News host reaching out and panicking, "Oh my God, you got to do something about these people." So all of that combined has culminated in Donald Trump feeling the need to go out there and rewrite history for all of us. And again, not just the history of January 6th, but the history of the 2020 election. We've had the audits, we've had the recounts, we've had the signature verifications. We have gone through every possible step of the process. And the fraud that we have found, almost all of it, rests in the hands of Republican voters. Still, majority of Republicans believe the 2020 election was in fact stolen, so Trump will never give up those talking points because, unfortunately, they've been pretty darn effective with his Republican base. I'm Farron Cousins, and for David Pakman, we'll be right back.
One of our sponsors is Self-Decode. Self-Decode is a genetic testing and analysis platform that gives you tools to gain insights about your health based on your DNA. This is a new technology. We're still learning so much about what of substantive value can we get from these types of results, but by using artificial intelligence and machine learning, you can get personalized insights based on your specific DNA, as well as getting lab test analysis and recommendations. Really a lot of interesting ways to get information about yourself through the Self-Decode platform. They never sell your information. They never give away your information to anybody. Self-Decode sent me a DNA kit to get my saliva. I did the test, sent it back, and in just a few weeks, I had my results. I found, for example, that genetically, I'm not at big risk for kidney stones, not at big risk for asthma. Unfortunately, I'm at slightly increased risk of headaches, which is true. And the recommendations you get are really simple and logical things relating to sleep, relaxation, etc. Very, very interesting. And this is a technology that's going to develop and mature significantly over the next 5 to 10 years. Self-Decode is giving my audience 25% off when you click the link below and use the coupon code PAKMAN.